Footage has emerged raising questions about the treatment of sheep being exported from Australia. Joining us now from Townsville in North Queensland is the Federal Agriculture Minister, Senator Barnaby Joyce. Senator Joyce, good morning. Good to talk to you.
Good morning, Virginia.
What's your response to this footage?
Well, obviously, Virginia, you wouldn't be human if you don't have empathy, and empathy for any person or any animal who is suffering. Therefore, you try to do what is within our power to affect this. Obviously, it is apparent that some of these sheep are from Australia, some of these sheep are not from Australia. What we must recognise, though, is that this process of slaughter is a process that is used throughout the world. When it comes onto our television set in our living room, obviously it's confronting, and we have designed a system to try as much as we can deal with this issue so that Australian sheep are not treated in this way. We can't obviously affect how sheep from other nations or their own sheep are dealt with. What we have to also make sure is that we don't overreact. This is an issue where there's a continual monitoring process, a process that deals with it. My department is currently at work, working out how this leakage happened, and this is also the third biggest destination for Australian live sheep. And there are so many people in the Australian market who rely on that form of income. They rely on it to pay for the groceries that come back onto their table, to pay for the issues in their lives. So we've got to manage it, not close it down.
The new system that's in place, the Exporter Supply Chain Assurance Scheme, was set up to prevent exactly this. Is the system failing in your view?
No, it's not. It's just like saying that if someone is caught on the road disobeying the road rules, do we shut the roads down and blame the police? No, you have to monitor it as best you can. Incidences will occur from time to time that are obviously, in this instance, is confronting and has to be dealt with. But it is working, and I have full confidence that my department is currently seeing how this leakage occurred, noting also that some of the footage does not involve Australian sheep. For that, we have no influence whatsoever, except that hopefully that Australia's view of how animals are treated overseas becomes the view of other people, and therefore we bring a betterment to the animal issue no matter where we are, just by reason of our involvement.
So, Senator, are you saying, Minister, are you saying that even though Animals Australia says that 10,000 Australian animals were seen being sold outside of the system, you're saying looking at that footage, you know that some are actually not from Australia, some are not Australian sheep?
Well, Virginia, that was on your own report this morning.
So, but there's 10,000, do you disagree with that figure, that 10,000 Australian animals were sold outside of the system?
Well, Virginia, that is a report from Animals Australia. I don't accept that because it comes from Animals Australia it's correct or incorrect. I just say that is the number they've given, and when we get to the end of an investigation process we'll have a better insight as to exactly the veracity of that number.
Well, of course, you say that the system is not failing, but that ESCAS system, the Exporter Supply Chain Assurance System, is to make livestock exporters responsible for monitoring the treatment of their animals right up to the point of slaughter. So if the point of slaughter involves sheep being dragged across roads and then thrown in the boots of cars, as we've been looking in that vision, then clearly that system is not doing the one basic thing it's supposed to do, which is monitor it right up to that point of slaughter. It's not working.
Well, Virginia, years ago that probably was very similar to the process of slaughter in many areas of Australia, but we've advanced a long way since then. So we have to make sure that we acknowledge that this is a process, and our engagement in this process assists in the advancement of how animals are treated. I accept that any image of an animal being slaughtered is confronting. The death of any animal is confronting. And I accept the strong views and the impassioned views and the well-held views that Animals Australia have, but I'm not going to be part and process of replicating what we did with the Indonesian live cattle trade and shutting it down. That would be an extremely poor position for Australia to be in. It would affect not only the treatment of animals in the future in the Middle East, because animals would still be slaughtered, they just wouldn't be Australian animals, would have no capacity to affect the humane treatment of animals. We would create instead an effect on the income earning capacity of people who are currently dealing with issues such as the drought, and shutting down another industry for Australia that can't afford to have an industry shut down.
But looking at, I guess, from the other end of it then, isn't it the case that it's always going to be impossible when you export live animals and those animals go to tiny villages and towns right through a country like this, that you can't ever have quality control all the way through the chain and all the way through to slaughter?
Well, that's why, Virginia, we have the SCAS system to try and make sure that they are slaughtered in a process that has been certified. When there is leakage, which is what's happened in this instance, that needs to be investigated as to how that leakage came about. And that's fully supported also by the industry that doesn't want that form of leakage. And you try to make sure that where there has been a breach, that we bring about a process to deal with it. I can't, though, say that from this point forward there'll never ever be a breach. You just like you can't say from this point forward no one will ever disobey a road rule, no one will ever rob a bank, no one will ever do anything else. When issues happened that are outside the laws in Australia, they are very hard to manage. When they happen outside the laws in another nation, they're even more difficult, but that is a process that we have to be part of.
Moving on to a couple of other topics before we let you go, Minister. The Industry Minister, Ian Macfarlane, says Cabinet's divided on whether to provide further assistance to the car industry. Where do you stand on that issue?
Well, the first thing I'd say is I don't discuss what happens in Cabinet. The next thing I'd say is I support Australia having a manufacturing industry, and I'm certain Australia will have a manufacturing industry into the future.
He says it's possible that the industry might not be able to survive or be saved, and this is the quote from him, be saved in terms of the level of support that it might require. That's him, I guess, trying to be as practical as possible about just how much money might be needed to save the industry. Do you agree with that assessment?
I'm sure the best endeavours will be made to support and to do what we can to assist the Australian manufacturing industry in light of the fact that we've been left in a position where our credit card is basically fully drawn. Everything we do in this nation now is so difficult because the money has just gone. We are just about at our $300 billion limit, and if we were to breach our $300 billion limit, you and I would not be having this conversation because the cheques would bounce, there would be no money.
Also, the Financial Review is reporting this morning that the Prime Minister wants to reinstate the 10-day rule for Cabinet submissions. Is that something that you support?
Well, I'm in compliance with it at the moment, but the issue, of course, there is I think the Australian people were tired of the sort of the chaotic approach of Labor under Kevin Rudd. Maybe it will be different under Bill Shorten, but Labor under Kevin Rudd, because they just saw fly by the seat of your pants ideas arriving on the television set at night without any real thought behind them. And this brings about a lack of confidence. And if there's one theme that I've picked up over and over again, walking around the street, is people say they want the government to look sane, they want it to look balanced, they want it to look calm and considered, and to give things the proper process of ventilation that will assist it. From time to time, issues no doubt will arise that will need to be dealt with in a more immediate form, but as long as they're few and far between, then I think the person on the street will have more confidence in their government.
And just finally this morning, Minister Treasurer Joe Hockey has delayed a final decision on that controversial bid by US food giant Archer Daniels Midland for Australia's Grain Corp. Are you starting to feel a little more confident that maybe that takeover won't go through?
Well, I think Virginia people are well aware of my views and my concerns in regards to the Grain Corp Archer Daniels Midland issue, and those concerns remain. Once more, I'll let the process follow its proper course, and I don't need to say any more. I think everybody's completely aware of my concerns about the Grain Corp Archer Daniels Midland takeover.
All right, good to talk to you this morning, Minister. Thank you.
My pleasure, Virginia.